You just don't know how great it is to say March 2nd. You have no idea, folks. Welcome back. College Basketball Betting Show. Mike Randle here with you. As always, you know the deal. Saturday mornings, we go through the games. We give you the therapy. We do what you do. We want to have a discussion. You come with your ideas. We use our models. We use our projections. We use our experience, and we give you results. Promo code FTN Hoops, 35% off here at FTN Bets. We are ready for March Madness. Kutri and I are getting ready for the conference tournaments, which we have set to go for you next week. We have a couple that are already behind the paywall, a couple that are coming up. We're going to hit it. You know the deal. Everybody in the chat here. This is the last Saturday of college basketball, the last major regular season Saturday. The chance we have a slate, 140 games. Can't wait to go. I've gone through all of them. Double espresso, rolling. It's time here. FTN Bets. Thanks for joining us. Let's see who's in the comments. Yeah, last day of the regular season. Kyle, you've joined us. You know the deal. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Josh Worth in the house. Yes. And this is funny. I see it coming up here, Manu. Liberty. Yep. And we're going back to Liberty again against UTEP. We'll get into that one in a little bit. Joey in the house. Joey, I love the thing you put on Twitter the other day, walking to the trees. It's tremendous. Really, really funny. Kyle, get the bankroll going. Yeah, we'll get ready. And remember, we have our conference tournament sims here as well. Frank Brank has done incredible work. Conference tournament sims. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of FTN. We'll have those for you as well. You can take a look at them on the site. Great stuff. Without further ado, want to get into it. Let's get rolling. Kentucky minus 13 versus Arkansas. Kentucky is a team that I was on earlier in the year. Then I backed off a little bit. Now they seem to be rolling. I almost feel like the love is a little strong. I don't think they've solved the defensive problems. I think the effort is there now. Calipari has sort of Geppetto-like mixed in the right combinations. I don't think that they are Final Four good. I don't at this point, and I think people are going to push them to go there. Could be a mistake. But I do think they have enough to beat up on bad teams, and Arkansas is a bad team. The offense is lethal, particularly at home. And by the way, people were asking me, some people like the picks listed in order from road to home. Guys, I've gotten a million complaints either way. What I'm doing is I'm putting my picks first. That's what you're seeing. If it says at, it means they're on the road. If it says verse, it means they're home. It's that simple. Kentucky minus 13.5 versus Arkansas. Don't see the spot here. They're going to hang 100 in Arkansas. They're going to get up and down the floor. Eric Musselman does a great job. He's a fantastic coach. Rumors of him possibly leaving Arkansas as well. But this year, the mix is not there. Neither is the chemistry. Kentucky is way too hot. Not going to stumble here. I'll run the risk that they win this game by 10. I thought there's too many points against BYU. TCU has the length. TCU has the size. TCU has the transition offense that can cause trouble for BYU. They have not played yet this year. BYU needs to shoot the three really well. And I know at home those are issues, but there's been problems with this team. And you've seen spots where they've struggled at home as well. So I think this is a really interesting spot for TCU. I think it's too many points. I put some notes down here as well. TCU in these situations, very, very interesting. They are great on the boards. They're going to be physical. They're going to defend the three-pointer. And you've seen in matchups this year that TCU can be strong when they have to be at defending teams that maybe aren't as physical as them. TCU has gone on the road and won in Kansas State. TCU went on the road and won at Baylor in 3 overtimes. Huge gut check game. TCU has gone on the road. They beat Oklahoma State, and they've competed at Cincinnati away. They went to overtime, and they lost to Texas Tech away by 1. BYU at home, sometimes the physicality bothers them. How in the heck did they lose to Cincinnati at home? Houston, of course, really good. Can't compare everybody to Houston. But you've seen spots at home where they've been a little bit up and down. I think it's too many points. I think they can easily win this game. I saw it. It jumped off the page to me. As much as BYU, fantastic win at Kansas, I think it's too many points here. Don't like Villanova. Haven't liked Villanova all year. Guys, I will tell you right now, these picks, I am not changing my strategy. I have picked coaches. I have picked against teams. I have picked 4 teams I like, teams I don't like. I'm not changing my tune now because everything is coming back together right now. We've seen the Mike Whites. We've seen those type of players and teams that we fade all year sort of coming back to earth. And I know Loyola Chicago looks hot. They don't win that game last night in Dayton if Bennett doesn't get hurt, by the way. So Loyola Chicago, I'll get you. I'll get you in the A-10 tournament, Drew Valentine. I will. But in this matchup, I like Providence at home. Devin Carter has a huge case to be the player of the year in the Big East. He's not going to be, I know that, but he's been fantastic. Providence at home, still kind of on the bubble, needs a win. Villanova on the road, don't trust them. The chemistry isn't there. The defense, the slow pace. Providence can spurt. They can hit some threes and get out of the way. Don't like Villanova here at all. I know they're in the bubble. I don't trust Kyle Neptune, and I don't trust them here at Providence. On the other hand, let's be Bayesian in our process. Gonzaga has looked great for the last few weeks have played really well. In fact, if you look at the Zags, they have won. They were 11-5 and 2-1 after the Santa Clara loss away. Since that time, they have won 12 of 13 games, and the only game they lost was St. Mary's at home by 2. And in that matchup, in that the 2-point loss, they only shot 3 of 14 from 3-point range. But they're winning. They're winning big. They now have 2 quad 1 wins, the Kentucky win, and they beat San Francisco in a semi away. I think they get St. Mary's here. St. Mary's doesn't need it. They've locked up the WCC. It's very hard to go back and think of a time when St. Mary's swept Gonzaga in the WCC. They are playing super well, and I love the way this team is shooting. They played San Francisco. Gonzaga shot well, made their free throws. Hickman ended up having 22. He's a big X factor for them. And Graham Ike, the last few games, has just been dominant. 26, 26, 20, 21. Just big-time points, 23 across the board. He's the factor that they can't answer for. He's the big man inside. I think they get it. It's a great money line play. In fact, I like it as a money line play as well. Colgate has been good down the stretch, beating teams when they've had nothing to play for. Every year you see Colgate in the Patriot division, they end up winning by 3 or 4 games, but they usually don't stumble. However, in this matchup against Lehigh, I don't like it. I think they have no motivation to play. And Lehigh, of course, has battled all year long, but they were struggling without one of their key players. They finally got Higgins back, which was a critical player for them. He was away for 3, 6, 9 games. In those games, they ended up losing 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 9 games. They went 3-6. So this was a team that was actually doing fairly well, competing well in the Patriot. He goes away. He has returned. He has finally gotten back to form. He's had 3 games with 2 or more threes. They're home. They're motivated. Always play Colgate tough. And now in this spot, there is no motivation for Colgate because they wrapped it up by 4 games. They're the winner in the Patriots. So I'll take the underdog here at home with the motivation with Higgins being back. No, just no with Virginia. I hopped on with Luke Neer this week, talked to him about Virginia. They cannot score. Ryan Dunn, Reese Beekman, McNeely coming off of staggered baseline screens, hoping to be open to make a 3-pointer. No, not a huge Duke guy. Don't like laying big numbers. I don't see it. I'll take Duke minus 8.5 here against Virginia because they are so limited offensively. No. Without Kevin McCullough, Kansas is not making the Final Four. In fact, without Kevin McCullough, I don't think they're making the Elite 8. Their bench is so short. And Nick Timberlake, who came over from Towson, who was supposed to be the 3-point shooter, and imagine this Kansas team, if they didn't get Nick Timberlake and got Cam Spencer instead, be a heck of a lot better. They're going against Baylor. They played this game the first time. Baylor could not score. They struggled. I think Ray J. Dennis had 3 points, something like that. On the road, Kansas has not been great. On the road, there's Elmar Jackson playing way too much. Timberlake is not going to shoot well on the road. He's been very feast or famine. Timberlake can get roasted defensively. Baylor at home, starting to get it together like Scott Drew always does. I think this may be up to 6 or 6.5 at some books. I would grab it now. I am taking Baylor minus 5.5 against Kansas. Kansas just doesn't have it because of the injuries. You know, Bill Self doesn't always have he usually doesn't have a deep bench, and he plays a pretty tight rotation, but that can be overrated. But it's not overrated when you end up losing who basically is a first-team All-American to an injury, and he may not be back. I don't like it. Dickinson have to have a huge game. DeJuan Harris has to score. Timberlake's always on the side of Mel Carton, can't find him. Not buying it there as well. When is South Carolina going to get some love? When are the Gamecocks going to actually get some love? They are great defensively. They're super tough at home. They're really well coached. Michi Johnson has been playing well. BJ Mack steps out. And listen, I recognize Florida is becoming the sexy, trendy team in March Madness to make a run. Florida is going to be your 5 or 6 on my big board right now here at FTN. They're going to be a team that people are going to project to go far. That's fine. They're not great on defense. And they're not great at the free throw line. So they're going on the road against a really good South Carolina team that I think has sleeper potential. Lamont Paris, brilliant job. Yes, they lost 2 games in a row, but they still lock you down on defense. They still slow you down. Florida with the turnovers. Florida big men don't make free throws. Florida on the road. South Carolina, enough. I just don't think they're going on the road to beat South Carolina. And I think South Carolina continues to get disrespected by the odds makers each and every week. In fact, earlier this week with South Carolina, they ended up going on the road, South Carolina, and they had a fantastic game. And people thought they were not that good. They thought they were struggling. They went on the road here and got a big, big win and they were getting like 2 or 3 points as the underdog here. Let me take a look. South Carolina, after those stumbles against Auburn and LSU, they go away to Mississippi, which is not easy. Chris Beard's been great. Team's starting to give the regression, but he's great. And then Texas A&M. Everybody's Texas A&M. The whole world's on Texas A&M. No, took care of business. Here's a Florida team. They're going to handle them today. They have not played them yet. And when teams late in the year play each other, I tend to take the team that I think is better. I'm taking South Carolina -1.5. I got the questions coming. I'll get to them in a minute. This is a motivational spot for Oakland. You look at the Oakland Grizzlies and you look at the standings, and this is a huge spot for Oakland. And the teams like Appalachian State, who have needed to take care of business, have done so. Oakland is 14-5. They have a half-game lead over Youngstown State in the Horizon. You know Greg Kampe is fantastic. They lost to Wright State at home. If they had beaten Wright State, they would have wrapped up the Horizon. So now they are home against the worst team in the Horizon in Detroit Mercy. They're just not stumbling here, folks. This is Detroit Mercy coming in. They beat Detroit Mercy back on Wednesday, November 29th. This is a huge motivation spot for Oakland. I don't see them losing this game, and I'm not going to take a backdoor cover on a Detroit Mercy team that has really struggled this year in a spot where Oakland can wrap up the Horizon with a win. The outright Horizon win. I am taking the Grizz here as well. I don't like Holy Cross. Holy Cross has struggled. I think BU is the better team. This is a half-unit play for me today on BU. Boston University in the Patriot. Still a team in the Patriot here that's looking for seeding. They're stuck in the middle. They're tied with Lehigh. They're tied with Bucknell. So they're going to want to get some good seeding here. They've won their last 4 games. They had 2 big overtime wins over Lehigh away, which was not easy. Loyola Maryland. Now they're playing a Holy Cross team who they lost to away 65-63. Holy Cross on the road, not buying it. BU starting to play a little bit better. Holy Cross has lost 4 of their last 5, and their away games, they ended up away game. They beat Loyola Maryland, but since then, blown out at Lafayette away, blown out at Colgate away, lost by 10 at Navy, which is catastrophic. I think BU gets the job done here as well. Don't like Temple. I don't think Temple should be favored by 5.5 over a high school team. If you put me, Kutry, Frank Brank, Matt Josephs, the whole team together, you Walt Waddell, I think we would end up covering 5.5. Tulsa is going to score. They're going to push the pace, but Temple can be very sloppy, turn the ball over here in the American. They have won 3 in a row, and they've played well. This is the first matchup of the year with Tulsa. They're home. Tulsa, with that zone, can be a little frisky. They like to play with pace. They're great on the defensive boards. I just think it's too many points. I don't trust Temple here. We've had me a lot of money fading Temple. I don't like Temple here as well. I am all in on Tennessee. People want to know my long shot. People want to know my Florida Atlantic this year. I don't know yet. I have to see the brackets, but I'm telling you this. I think Tennessee is winning this game today. I think Tennessee is getting the last number 1 seed. I think Tennessee is a Final Four national title contender. Got them at plus 1,500 to win the national title. Maybe doubling down here prior to this game. Because they win this game, those odds are going to really plummet and get a little bit lower. Alabama doesn't play great defense. I know Alabama's fantastic at home. They should have lost it to home at Florida. It's all the threes. It's all the variants. And I think the key here is that Tennessee has been able to score with anyone. And yes, people are saying that Tennessee's defense isn't where it normally is. It's still good enough because now they have Dalton Knecht. But the key to this team is Zakai Ziegler, who came back off the injury, who pushes the pace. They have a ton of bigs inside, and everyone likes to rip Rick Barnes. Well, I'll tell you this. We have seen time and time again in every sport, the coaches, the players that are ridiculed and said they can't win the big one, and everything changes. You can go back to Nebraska in college football in the 80s, all the way back. People used to say Nebraska can't win the big one. They went for 2 in the bowl game against Miami, where if they just tied the game, they would have won the national title. Tom Osborne can't win the big one. He then wins 2 national titles, and I think he's like the senator out there now, or what used to be a congressman out there as well. Things can turn around. I think they're turning around for Rick Barnes. 5 straight trips to the tournament, made the Sweet 16 last year, had a 13-point lead over Tennessee early in the second half against Florida Atlantic, could have made the Final Four, could have won a national title last year. Give me Tennessee plus 3.5 because Alabama's shooting variance is way too up and down. And Tennessee, if you're going to beat them, you got to hammer them on the boards. You got to be physical. The teams that have beaten Tennessee, take a look at this. The teams that have beaten the Volunteers, Mississippi, forget the non-conference because it's still early in the season. Mississippi State, South Carolina, Texas A&M. Bully ball, aggressive, physical. It's not Alabama. I think they get the job done today. Half unit here. This could be a Florida Atlantic blowout. I'm not laying big points of Florida Atlantic. You know the situation with them. They play zero defense whatsoever. Tulane can absolutely keep this close. I don't like laying big spreads late in the year at all. I don't like laying big spreads with teams where they're in the conference who are playing a second time. And I sure as heck don't like laying big points with Florida Atlantic. So we'll take 14.5 here. I'll get to the comments right after this. Hold your nose spot here for Wisconsin. Buy low, sell high. Illinois has been great. They're fantastic. However, they've won 4 of the last 5, but let's look at what they've done on the road. Illinois at Penn State, gagged it when Penn State has no Cleary. They give it back, they lose, and they allow 90 points. At Michigan State, lose by 8. Michigan State is a shell of their former self. I'm taking Purdue today, by the way. At Northwestern, lost that game. At Purdue, of course, they lose. No shame there. They have not played well on the road, and this is a perfect buy low spot for Wisconsin. Lost away to Indiana, lost away to Iowa, Rutgers away lost. Michigan, however, at home, they beat Ohio State by 8. At home, they beat Maryland by 4. At home, they play tough against Purdue. Illinois, coming up after this game, Illinois plays Purdue at home and Iowa. So 2 big games coming up. Don't trust them on the road. Wisconsin should get their pace. Crowd should be into it. Buy low spot for Wisconsin. No one's taking Wisconsin this game because everyone's jumped off the train, and I get it. I'm just not sure about Illinois on the road in the spot. I will take them there. I'll get to the comments. Sorry, I said we get to the comments. I apologize. Don't want to lie to you guys. Here we go. Let's see what we got here. Ton of questions popping in. No better way to start your Saturday. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for showing up as well. Letdown spot, Howie. I agree. BYU offer and this is a good TCU team. They're going to be physical. They're great at guarding the arc. They're going to push the pace. This is not an ideal matchup for BYU. I thought the line was probably the first line that jumped out to me, way too high. Let's see. Yeah, St. Mary's is just there was a couple injuries as well. They probably will play in this game, but there's a chance they hold them out as well. Yeah, Kyle, Florida does lose on the road because of the free throws, and I think that's key. I think the counter here is that I just don't trust their defense. I think if you're going to win on the road in big SEC games, you have to bring the defensive intensity. You're not outscoring South Carolina at home. You're just not doing that. Imagine, Dusty Stromer. It's very true, Chris. Dusty Stromer, and of course the other guy too, who ran into the legal trouble, I think, and left. I think that also messed them up as well. I forget his name right now, but he was there and they ended up getting kicked off because he has all the issues off the court. They need that as well. Dan, great seeing you last weekend, buddy, at UMass. I got a UMass pick today too. Clemson at Notre Dame. I do think they're the better team. I did not pick this game, Dan. I do think Clemson is the better team. It's a frisky 5.5. And Micah Shrewsbury's a really good coach at Notre Dame, and they're playing well. This just could be a Clemson wins by 4 game. I didn't pick it. I like Clemson. You know that. Depending on the matchups, I could have Clemson going to the Final Four or at least the Elite 8 as sort of a sleeper team. That's my sleeper Big 6 team, Clemson. Love everything about them. I agree. I stayed away. Yeah, Colby, it's coming up right now. I got the next game I got is Georgia Tech +3 against FSU. So there you go. Howie, it's getting too much. I love Charlotte in this spot, but I think it's up to 4.5. And we saw last week they were home underdog to SMU. I mean, crazy. It's just the lack of respect that South Florida is getting. Really reminds me of like Drake or like a Florida Atlantic from last year. That's a lot. I'm probably leaning on South Florida just because it's way too many points as well. Ken thinks Alabama's being Tennessee. Well, Ken, this is what I'll tell you. If you like Alabama today, then my suggestion is to tether that to some player props for Alabama threes. Because if Alabama's going to win, they're like Creighton. If they're going to beat a team of Tennessee's caliber, like Creighton is going to end up beating a team of UConn's caliber at home, then I suggest you tether that to some 3 props. Because Sears better go nuts. They better make 1,000,000 threes. And maybe Whitesell plays. Maybe he comes back today because he had the concussion, I think. So if you like that, Ken, I would go with some Alabama props as well because they're not beating Tennessee unless they're banging threes. Just like we're not beating UConn at home if we're Creighton unless we're banging threes from the logo there. That's the key for that one. Wisconsin's, yeah, it's fine. Kyle, I'm fine with staying away with it. It's not. I understand because Wisconsin has just been absolutely brutal. I get it. And that's it. Let's get back to the picks. Yeah, I said this one here, Georgia Tech plus 3.5 against FSU. They do have pride. FSU on the road worries me. Georgia Tech can score at home. They've played well. They've only really played well against Duke and North Carolina, but I think this is an ideal spot for them to get right. Georgia Tech and Florida State is just, Leonard Hamilton, wonderful coach, Hall of Fame coach, but they've been very up and down. On the road, lose at Virginia Tech. On the road, lose at Clemson. On the road, lose at Louisville. Not a great team on the road here. Now they're playing a Georgia Tech team that they beat 82-71. So a bit of a revenge spot for Georgia Tech, who's actually won 2 of their last 3. They beat Syracuse at home. They beat Miami away. I'm fine with this, getting the 3.5. You even want to make it a money line play. I have no problem with that at all. Chattanooga variance has done well for us. We sometimes get it right. We sometimes pick with them. We pick against them. Western Carolina, motivated here. Payback spot against Chattanooga. Chattanooga just has to hit those threes. And they beat Western Carolina 91-85 away in that matchup. Chattanooga 12 of 24 from 3, 50% from three-point range. I think Western Carolina comes with the game plan. I think they play well today. In the SoCon, Chattanooga's 12-5. They have no chance here of catching Samford. Samford has won the outright title in the SoCon, so they're pretty much playing for seeding. They're locked into the 2 or the 3 in this matchup. I like Western Carolina here. I don't think they get burned from 3. Only reason they lost last time at home, Chattanooga banged the 3. So if you think Chattanooga's going to hit their 3s today, bet them. I'm going to go the other way. Wake Forest, you need this game. Wake Forest, you're going to make the NCAA tournament. You better show up today. You can kill Virginia Tech inside with Efton Reed and Hunter Salas. You're better than this team. I've seen Virginia Tech. It's all the 3s. It's all the guards. It's all outside. This game's at 5:30. It's not like a 9 o'clock start down in Blacksburg. Give me Wake Forest. They beat Duke. Big win. Then they gag it against Notre Dame. They want to make the tournament. You're the better team. You've got to get this game. You have a huge size advantage inside. I hate Link Kid. I think he's soft as a pillow. You can push him around. Steve Forbes, get the job done. Get out in transition. Make some 3s. You are the better team. Boy, wouldn't it just be ideal to see Sacred Heart come up and stick it to us here in a situation where Merrimack can lock up the NEC outright title, Merrimack, with this matchup. There is 1 game left. Merrimack under Joe Gallo in their zone. Brilliant job. Have a 1-game lead over Central Connecticut. So they lose this game. They couldn't end up sharing the NEC regular season. All that stands between them and an outright title is to beat Sacred Heart. Yes, the game is on the road. I get that. But Sacred Heart under Anthony Latina, one of the most disappointing teams in college basketball, predicted first here, really has done nothing. They've beaten the little teams. They've beaten Wagner away. They beat Fairleigh Dickinson. They allowed 91 points at home to Fairleigh Dickinson. They beat Stonehill away. Congratulations. I know it's a big game. I'm taking the motivated team in Merrimack. It's only 3.5. Outright title is theirs if they can win at Sacred Heart. I'm not afraid of Sacred Heart. 3.5's a lot. I wish it was 1, but I'll lay it here as well. Vermont is missing a couple players. Saw this from Rothstein last night, and then I went and did the numbers, and that's why this pick ended up getting changed. I'll pull it up right now. Rothstein said that Vermont is resting a couple players. They're guaranteed at least a share of the America East title, so this must be some serious injuries here for Vermont, and Vermont is not deep. So these players not playing today is sort of a critical thing, and that's why I'm taking the points with UMass Lowell, which is an awful lot. It's Veretto and someone else. Hold on. Yeah. TJ Hurley and Matt Veretto are out for the rest of the regular season for Vermont, but should return for the America East tournament. Veretto's 9 points a game. Hurley's 8 points a game. That's too much for me. I am taking UMass Lowell, who I'm not crazy about, but in battle, a revenge spot here, 7 points. Vermont could win. They're incredible. John Becker's one of the best coaches in college basketball. 7's an awful lot. I'll take them there. Iowa State's the better team. Johnny Dawkins' fade is in effect. Iowa State's the better team. Iowa State still can win the Big 12. They are only 1 game behind Houston here in the Big 12 standings. Houston is 14-4. Iowa State is 13-5. So they still can win here. You have Houston going on the road at Oklahoma. You have Houston then at UCF in a bit of a look-ahead spot. And then they have Kansas at home. So all Iowa State needs is 1 slip up, which could happen today. And they just have to win out. UCF, BYU, Kansas State. I think they're the better team. I'm taking Iowa State, laying the 3.5 here. You know my deal with VMI? Wofford, I get it. It's just a lot of points. Just a lot of points. And that worked really well for us last Saturday. Teams laying a lot of points in a matchup here in conference. Make it a half unit. Don't go nuts. I'll take them there. Central Connecticut can still win. If Merrimack stumbles, they could still get a share here of the conference. So I'll take them laying 13.5 against a horrific Stonehill team. Stonehill has actually done well last couple of games and bit us. But Central Connecticut, if Merrimack stumbles, they can still get a piece of this. So I will lay the points there as well. Motivation spot here. Charleston has none. Hofstra has everything. They're playing for seeding. Hofstra, always a challenge here under Speedy Claxton, plays very well from out in Long Island in the CAA. Charleston has wrapped up the conference. They are 14-3. They're the absolute number one seed. They're at home here against Hofstra. They beat Hofstra the first time they played. Hofstra's won 4 in a row. Hofstra's won 8 of their last 9. They're scalding hot. Hofstra sitting in the CAA at 12-5. They can win the number 2 seed here in the CAA tournament if they get this game. Charleston at home, but questionable motivation will take them there as well. G-Dub is dead man walking. I'll take LaSalle minus 5.5. G-Dub got pushed around by UMass, just horrific. Their whole season went south when they lost that 3 overtime game to Fordham. Take a look at the numbers and look at their schedule. Just have fallen apart, G-Dub. LaSalle's actually pretty feisty lately. I will take them. I agree with the Gardner-Webb pick. I saw this one in the chat against Winthrop. Gardner-Webb is going to be one of those teams that is very dangerous in their conference tournament in the Big South. Gardner-Webb hurt us against Radford, but outside of that, they've been pretty darn good. They lost away to Presbyterian and home to High Point, no shame, and then that bizarre Radford loss. But they beat Longwood at home. They went away to UNC Asheville, who they swept this year, sweeping UNC Asheville, super impressive. USC Upstate, Charleston Southern, across the board, they've won 3, 6, 8, 10 of their last 13. Love to push the pace with Gardner-Webb. Love to shoot threes. Best defense in the Big South inside the arc, and now they're playing Winthrop team here away. They're getting 4.5 points. I think they can sweep them. I will take them plus 4.5. New Hampshire on the road, forget it. Binghamton at home has played really well. They covered against NJIT. They've had some nice covers there for the fans at home. New Hampshire on the road, not liking this team, really struggling here. Have given back some big leads too, New Hampshire. New Hampshire can get up early when they're home, and they have given back some tough leads with Nathan Davis. Lost to UMBC, lost to Albany, lost to Vermont, lost to Bryant. Really struggled. So they're on the road here. They beat Binghamton at home in overtime. I think Binghamton destroys them today. Love Binghamton getting the points as well. I don't believe in Arizona. I'm not going to have Arizona going far. I believe in Dana Altman. Dante inside. A lot of points here. Washington State beat them in Arizona. Teams can play with Arizona. I am not afraid of playing teams playing them in Arizona here as well. I'm taking Oregon, well-coached team. The public perception of what Arizona is one of the biggest differences in college basketball between how I think they can actually do, and people think they are some dominant like UConn team at home. No, they are not. And if you rely on Caleb Love as your main offensive player, eventually you're going to get burned. I'll take the 13 points here as well. You listen, Minnesota is the number 1 cover team in all of college basketball. I think they're 24-4 this year against the spread, something crazy. I'm taking it. Penn State battled without Cleary. Now they're starting to give it back. They're limited at the barn. Always tough place to play. Minnesota looks really good. They're great against the spread. They're playing well at the right time. One of the best coaching jobs in all of college basketball this year. This Minnesota team, only 8-9, 17-11 against the spread. But Ben Johnson doing a great job. At home, Ohio State hang 88. At home, Rutgers winning cover. At home, Michigan State wins. Northwestern. The teams that have beaten them at home, Iowa back in January and Wisconsin. But this team has played well. This Penn State team, they beat them away 83-74. Penn State is limping in here now, lost to Iowa. Yes, they beat Illinois in a miracle game they should not have had, and they beat a terrible Indiana team. This team is playing too well right now, Minnesota. I'm not laying it as well. I love Iowa here. I don't know the status of Langborn. You know Ty Berry's out for Northwestern, and you know Langborn's out. Now, they won at Maryland. Why? Because Kevin Willard. That's why. You know my deal with Kevin Willard. But Iowa is playing well with Fran. They can get up and down the floor. They can score. Northwestern, brilliant coaching job by Collins. But they're at some point, they're going to miss Langborn and they're going to miss Berry. They're just not that deep. And so they've been shooting scalding hot, 41.9% the Wildcats from three-point range within the Big Ten Conference. Everything regresses. Three-point shooting, is the number 1 barometer with regression. I am going to take Iowa getting the points here on the road because I think This is a fascinating matchup, and it is the first time that Iowa has played Northwestern this year. It's about time for the regression monster to hit Northwestern. They'll get Langborn back for the tournament. They're not going to get Berry. It's just a lot of points. No Warren Washington in this game. I'm slamming West Virginia. Warren Washington, the 7-footer inside, makes a huge difference. West Virginia at home has played really well. They've beaten Kansas. They've had some big upsets at home, and now they're playing Texas Tech. If Washington is back, I still probably like it because I would expect the line to go up to maybe 4.5 or 5. I'm taking West Virginia here. They've struggled on the road, but they've been competitive. They were competitive against Iowa State. Texas Tech without the big man in the middle is not the same at all. Richmond needs this game badly, and I think they get it. Look at the A10 standings here with Richmond, and Richmond is a different team at home versus on the road. Richmond is 13-2. Loyola Chicago had the big one over Dayton. I will say this. If Bennett doesn't get hurt, Dayton wins that game. Dayton was in control from start to finish. Bennett goes out, and Dayton just ends up falling apart. Dayton wins that game. I am still Loyola Chicago. You've been my nemesis this year. It's the one team that I'm fading that continues to win, but I'm going to do it. Loyola Chicago 13-3. If Richmond loses this game, they fall into a tie with Loyola Chicago. Get this game. Get St. Joe's. You guarantee yourself at least a share. I think they get the job done here. They lost to VCU away 63-52. This is a revenge spot. VCU has been playing well. I don't think Richmond loses at home. I am taking Richmond -2.5 to continue their one-game lead in the A10. Man, Green Bay needs their full roster. If I'm still waiting to hear what the status is with Green Bay with Noah Reynolds. Noah Reynolds is a 20-point-per-game scorer. You can argue the best player in the horizon, and he has been out. They were 17-9, 12-3. Really, Sundance Wicks, one of the best coaching jobs in college basketball with Green Bay. They were really ready to put this Horizon League away, and then he's out. They lose to Northern Kentucky. They lose to Purdue Fort Wayne. They lose to Youngstown State. But what did they do last time against Cleveland State? They got things right. Even without Noah Reynolds in the lineup, they found a way to win at Cleveland State. Sundance Wicks is that good of a coach. Now they go away in a rivalry game against Milwaukee. They're playing Milwaukee, who they beat 70-58 earlier. This team is so live if they get Noah Reynolds back because they're going to be undervalued. They've struggled. They were the best team in the Horizon. They're playing well. They play at pace. They don't turn the ball over. Is Reynolds back today? I don't think so. He's probably coming back for the tournament. I just think it's too many points. That was an impressive win at Cleveland State. Shows you how good a coach Sundance Wicks is. Kansas State's defense should keep them in this game. I don't think Cincinnati can score enough to win by 7 here. Kansas State, Jerome Tang, great in overtime. It gets to overtime. We know we got the game here. But Tyler Perry, Kansas State, shooting well. Great defense. Defense travels. I'll take them here as well. Liberty in a payback against UTEP. Liberty has been very good at home lately. They've started to shoot super well in Conference USA. They've adjusted. They definitely had their struggles coming over to Conference USA. They were 0-3 to start conference play. They lost at Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State, Louisiana Tech. Then they got their feet under them, and their home 10 games have been very good, Liberty. They shoot well at home, and they are tough to beat at home. FIU, they beat. Sam Houston State, who's really good, beat them by 16. Middle Tennessee beat them by 32. Louisiana Tech, the other top team in the conference, beat them by 3 at home. New Mexico State, that was a big cover for us. They pulled away. We laid 14. They ended up winning by 25. They're playing UTEP. Now they beat UTEP. I'm sorry. They beat UTEP the first time 67-65, but they're shooting well at home, and UTEP has just been struggling. UTEP under Joe Golding. Remember Joe Golding from Abilene Christian with the defense here? Terrible on offense, terrible inside the arc. The thing is that they force turnovers. Golding's team will get up. They will play defense. They will force turnovers. The problem is you're not forcing turnovers on Liberty. They take care of the ball. They backdoor you when you overplay, and they make their threes. I'm laying the points here with Liberty at home in this matchup. Only a half unit on this one. Boise State needs to stay atop the conference. Utah State won last night. I think Boise gets it done against New Mexico, who had the bad loss against Air Force. Struggle on defense, New Mexico. They're getting a little bit cocky. They're getting a little bit like James Madison. They like to push up and down the floor. They like to outscore you. Not happening against Leon Rice. Better coach team at home. Tough Boise State team who's always played well at New Mexico. They have no problem winning at the Pit. Now they're home. I like them here. First time Oklahoma is seeing Houston, no bueno. When you haven't seen Houston, you can't prepare for them. As much as Oklahoma is tough at home, this Houston team is just on a different stratosphere with their defense. First time Oklahoma's going to see it is really rough. There's no adjustment that you can make there. Houston has that 1-game lead. They're not stumbling here away. They have UCF away, then they have Kansas at home. Houston can smell this Big 12 title. They're not stumbling in Oklahoma. I think they win. I'm not going to worry about them winning by 3 or 4. Sam Houston State at home against Middle Tennessee State at home good. Middle Tennessee State on the road bad. Sam Houston State needs this game. Sam Houston is still very much alive in Conference USA. You look at the standings. Louisiana Tech is 11-3. Sam Houston State is 10-3. They are just 1 game behind Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech has a game coming up on Thursday, and guess who that's against? Sam Houston State. So Sam Houston wins this game today. They set themselves up very nicely to earn at least a share of the Conference USA title. You want to say look ahead spot, that's fine. If the game was at Middle Tennessee State, I'd probably take Middle Tennessee State. But at home, I think they get the job done. Get ready for the Tom Izzo, Clint Eastwood, get off my lawn, old man yelling, whatever it's going to be here. Purdue's the better team. Michigan State is terrible in the interior, have to shoot well from 3-point range, not buying it. Purdue at home, big battle here. Just trust them. Don't trust Michigan State. Don't trust them in the tournament. Don't trust Malik Hall. I'm taking Purdue. Utah fighting on the bubble. They're on one of their first 4 out on my big board here at FTN. 8.5 against California. When you play Utah at home, it is a different animal. I'll take Utah laying the points. Sleepy spot for UNLV. Look at UNLV's schedule coming up and who they are playing. This is the big matchup here. UNLV has been super impressive. They're going to be live in the Mountain West tournament under Kevin Kruger. But they beat San Jose State 77-65 away. They're 10-5. They have San Diego State at home and then Nevada away. And they just went to overtime against Wyoming in a big win. This is the classic sleepy trap spot here. I like the San Jose State team. Not great on the metrics, but do control the pace, can make their free throws as well. I will take them there. Couple last-second games. Harvard stinks. We covered against Brown and went to overtime. It shouldn't. That's a terrible spot. Yale's going to put them away today. Yale wants to win the Ivy. They can't afford a letdown here. Second game after an overtime game against Brown. You're now playing Yale. Good night for that. I mean, the fade Mike White train. Why would we get off here at this point with the fade Mike White train? Texas A&M, sort of a buy low spot for them as well. It took a while, but that Mike White offense will always rear its ugly head. They lost Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Florida. Hey, you won at Vanderbilt. Then you lose to Auburn big and you lose to LSU away by 1. I am taking them here in this matchup. I'm taking Texas A&M in this matchup against Georgia. It's a 5-game losing streak. You know, Buzz on the road can be a really big pest against the spread. You know they need this win. Buzz will not give up. I think he's a better coach. It's 1.5. I bet a lot of people take Georgia. I will take them there as well. Make it a half unit. I think 4.5 is too much. Do I think Charlotte wins this game? Yes. I think, unfortunately, Charlotte wins this game. South Florida, a little regression. I just think 4.5 is too much. We're selling them too short. And the last one for me, guys, Stony Brook against Delaware. Stony Brook has been hot. They've been playing well lately. They're home here against Delaware in the CAA. You look at the standings. Stony Brook right in the middle. So is Delaware. Delaware 10-7, Stony Brook 9-8. So we're talking about seeding. They played Delaware and they lost away 71-68. Now they're home. They beat William & Mary big at home. They covered. They beat North Carolina A&T and covered. They beat Hampton and covered. They beat Northeastern. They beat UNC Wilmington. Stony Brook is pretty good at home, and Delaware on the road has not been strong. Like the Stony Brook team, it's too low of a spread. I will take them there. Let's get to the comments, which are flying in, guys. I'm sorry. Just a big slate. Very, very excited here, of course, across the board. Hofstra money line. Again, I'm totally fine with that. Texas game I stayed away from. Daryl, I think Kentucky's covering. I think Kentucky, I don't see how Arkansas can go into Kentucky and cover this game today. Muzzy, you said the 4.5. I agree with that there. Yeah, you know, I don't know how to say that. Clades? Sorry, bud. I don't know how to say. Yeah, I don't know. Is Sean Miller leaving? Ed Cooley. Georgetown's been terrible, but they did cover at home against St. John's. Kind of a stay away. You put a gun in my head, I'll take the Hoyas in the 7.5 because they're home, but that's about it. Garcia's been great, Jason. Totally agree with you. Garcia's been really good inside. I like this Minnesota team. It's a little high. I wish it was 3 or 4, but Penn State without Cleary has been really struggling. Dan, Dan, I appreciate it. I like Wake in this matchup. They have to get this game. If they lose this game, they are going to be out of every bracketology on the bubble. Virginia Tech at home is really tough, and it's Blacksburg. It's 5:30 p.m. It's not 9 p.m. It's not a it's not a massive standalone game on ESPN. They're just weak inside. I think Reed, I think Salas can score inside on Lynn Kidd, who I think is very soft. He's the big pillow. They'd have to shoot the lights out Virginia Tech, and I don't see that happening here. Benny, you're the man. You know that. You are the freaking man. I like Boise State, Drew, in this matchup. I like Boise State. It's 3.5. If you look at the standings in the Mountain West for this team, let me get to it here with Boise. Sorry. Yeah, you go to Boise State and you look in the Mountain West. Utah State is 12-4, so Boise needs to win to keep pace here with Utah State. They do have Nevada at home and San Diego State. Those are tough games coming up, but they have no problem with New Mexico. They're great at defending the three. They're great on the boards. They are super physical on the boards, and that's what drives New Mexico crazy. New Mexico has been struggling up, down. They're going on the road, lost at San Diego State. They did beat Nevada on the way with that last-second shot. I'm taking Boise here because I think they're the better team, and I don't care about the points. Kyle, I get it. The issue is that Kolek is injured, that Kolek has the oblique. If Kolek wasn't injured, I would take Marquette. It's really high, which bothers me. It reminds me of when, I think it was Seton Hall. Who went there? Providence went there after losing the big, and it was 8.5, and they ended up covering. So I stayed away from this one. You know I hate Creighton, and I am well aware that Ashford could go another 5 of 10 from three-point range. But Marquette is very well coached and has a pro-style offense that hits threes from the outside. The question is the Kolek injury. That's the problem. But I've seen teams with injured players go there and cover, and I think Creighton's the Pillsbury Doughboy. So I'm staying away from that one as well. Par 4, Monmouths and Enigma. Let me check out Monmouth. I did see that one. I passed on it, but I did see that one. Monmouth today, yeah, at Elon. I don't like Elon. I'd probably go Monmouth if I had a choice. Elon got to the window, but that was a struggle. I probably would take Monmouth. If you had to go in that one, I would take Monmouth and lay the points. Yeah, Chris, I know I have a blind spot. I have a blind spot for Milwaukee and BJ Freeman, but I will tell you this. Sundance Wicks and Green Bay are super talented. They really are. That was a big – you win without Reynolds against a good Cleveland State team that defends. I'll take the points. I think this is a case of the injury makes the line too much, and it's happened more often than not. But much respect to Freeman. I do get it. Muzzy, no feeling on the Mercer game. I don't want to be part of that one, but I get it. Yeah, I think he's out. And, you know, I've just seen these situations, Colby, when they're out and the line gets too much. And, you know, Shaka can dial something up. I just want no part of it as well. FIU stinks, LaRon. I got no pick. Maybe if you check the Discord, I'll put something in later. I think FIU is terrible. I just don't like them, so I stayed away. Yeah, I'm taking Providence, Jer. I'm laying the points with Providence. I don't like Villanova. I don't like them on the road. I don't like the chemistry here with Kyle Neptune. They're very reliant on the three. They haven't had any consistency. They have to shoot well. I think Providence will shut them down, and Providence themselves fighting for positioning to lock themselves into the tournament. So I'll take Providence there as well. I think that's it, guys. I think we're out of here. Talked about that one. Kyle, you're the best. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you as well. And let's see, Daryl, last one, my man Daryl. Wake Forest, I like getting the points. UNC over is always fine with me, and Houston under. Reasonable, totally reasonable. Nothing on Montana, Idaho. Still mad at Montana for burning me in that last game as well. BJ got in. I like Gonzaga. I like Gonzaga plus 2.5. I think St. Mary's has some injuries. I think St. Mary's may not. I mean, the motivation is there. They want an outright title. They want to sweep Gonzaga. They already have the outright title. They want to be undefeated in WCC. But Gonzaga is hot. They're playing well. That was a big win at semi-home against San Francisco. They've been great over the last 10 games. The only loss was the one loss. There was 2 points, and they only shot 3 of 18 from three-point range. So I think Gonzaga gets the win here as well. There you go, guys. Thank you as always. Like, subscribe. Don't forget, folks, promo code FTN Hoops, 35% off. You want to join. The models are hot. We're doing great work across the board here. Frank Brank's models, you can check them out. We end up having NBA. Sam Choudhury is scalding hot with NBA as well. You can get our biggest edges as well across the board. Guys, thank you. Appreciate you. We're ready next week. We'll have the shows. We may have different days, so make sure you check the times, different days, because the conference tournament's ready to rock and roll. Like and subscribe. As always, get your coffee, get some popcorn, get ready to go. We are excited. It's college basketball season. It's March, the best time of year. We'll sleep when we get to April. And as always, get to the window.